Hi, I am Kitty Tait. I run the Orange Bakery in my small town Watlington, and I'm a baker. I bake sourdough bread Monday to Sunday, 24/7 basically. I never ever think of it as a profession still. I still kind of just wake up and think I'm very lucky to be able to make sourdough every single day and make huge quantities of it. Sometimes when I think it's a profession, I kind of go, whoa, really? I used to make about like 6 loaves a day, and I cycle around my village and I put them on the back of my bike and I drop them around at different people's houses and put a little slip so they didn't just think it was like random bread. And so more and more people started to go, oh my god, I love this bread. And they told their neighbours, and I'd be like going to the co-op and I'd get like frisked and stopped. We'd be like, how do I get your bread? Can I have your bread? So I started baking more and more. So originally it was a subscription service and then it just flourished into a bit more. The baking world is an amazing community. So when I started baking bread, I got onto Instagram. And the Instagram bread world is just amazing. So I started contacting all these different bakeries and bakers, and I was very persistent. I think quite a lot of them were quite scared at the end when I sent them like 8 emails and like phoned them up. But I went to work at different bakeries. So I worked at some in London, and then I actually went to work at some in Berlin, some local in Oxford, so everywhere basically. And they were all really lovely. And actually in the bakery right now we've got a mixer which was given to us by Pophams, and then we've got tables that were given to us by this other lovely baker. So everything's quite given to us, and it's a very lovely world. Because I am quite young too, I love just things that maybe most people don't think that go together. I love just putting it together and seeing how it works. And our customer base is really cool actually, because they just, whatever it is. So I made a seaweed loaf the other day, which I was like, I'm not sure people are going to go for, but people were actually like buying, quite excited to. So our customer base is really cool and quite like us experimenting, so that just enables me to get a bit more creative. When I started baking, I had this year of really bad depression and anxieties, and that's the thing that meant I couldn't go to school. And I definitely felt very, very lost. And when I started baking, just the therapeuticness of using my hands and caring for something that was living, so caring for the starter, and knowing that I needed to wake up in the morning because I needed to feed it, and I needed to be there in the afternoon because I needed to turn it. And even little things like pulling the bread out of the oven and smelling the freshness and the crust, and it was very therapeutic to me. And even this day when I get very anxious or when things just feel too overwhelming, I know that I can just go away and spend 2 hours with some dough that's kneading, chopping, baking, whatever, and it just realigns my headspace a bit. But what really interests me is drawing this bridge between people like me, like my mum, like my sister, like my brother, who don't know that much about sourdough, or even who aren't that enthusiastic, who don't want to know that much about sourdough. And the sourdough world itself, I think the really hard thing about it is a lot of bakers I know are very focused on the grains and getting the best of the best and going back to the old ways, which I find fascinating. But what I want to do is make bread which is really easy and really accessible and really understandable for most people, so they don't feel intimidated by sourdough. And then I want kids to grow up on it. So my bigger idea is to create a large movement or a larger franchise where anyone can be a baker, and sourdough isn't this really intimidating, expensive, very orthodox bread. It's this bread that's just joyful and good for you, but tastes amazing and tastes edible, which isn't really what we have these days. I mean, I grew up on white slice, so do my siblings, so do my cousins, most people do, and I'd love to change that movement instead of just focus on the best grains or the best of the best. And it's kind of the last caveat. I mean, we have amazing meat, and we really think about buying free-range eggs and local vegetables and fruits, but we haven't thought about bread yet, and I think that's the last thing that's going to come back to our tables.